Okay, so I have 7 stitches distributed across 3 double pointed needles, and I've completed my first 2 knit rows, so I'm ready for an increase row. To do a make one increase, first of all, we're going to get my yarn tail organized, and we're going to look for the ladder between stitches. And we're just going to stick our needle in that ladder and knit into it. So before every stitch, we are going to add another stitch. There's my ladder, stitch into it, and knit the next stitch. Here's my ladder. Well, actually, I know where I'm headed. I'm going to have 28 stitches. I'm going to have 8 stitches on my first needle, on my first 2 needles, and 6 stitches on my next 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and start organizing my knitting to get me to, in this case, I want 4 stitches on my first 2 needles. Again, I'm going to knit into that ladder. Okay, so I've got 4 stitches, 4 stitches. Now I want 3 on these next 2. So we do 2 rows of increases. Okay, so here I'm getting into the ladder, knitting the next stitch. This is going to look a little weird. So I'm knitting into the ladder. Okay, so now I have 3 stitches here, and now I'm going to switch and pick up a new needle and knit onto that. But I'm picking up a ladder between every stitch and then knitting the next stitch. Okay. So what I have now is 4, 4, 3, and 3 stitches, exactly what I need, because I'll do another increase row which will double the number of stitches. But first, I need to just knit a straight row. You always want to do 1 row of regular knitting between an increase row or a decrease row, just to even out your knitting. And sometimes when you don't have a lot of stitches, it may feel like you've got a lot of needles in your way. And if that's the case, you don't have to distribute them. You can stay with fewer needles for a while. But it's only 1 more row, and I need to double the number of stitches. So I figured it would be just as easy to transition on that last row. Or I could do it on this row. This would be another great place to redistribute the number of stitches. The pattern tells you how many stitches you should have at the end of each row, but it's up to you how you want to organize your knitting. And the more you knit, the more you'll figure out what works for you. Okay, so that was 3 stitches. I'm on my last needle of 3, so all I have to do is knit these last 3 stitches. And this will be the end of row 4. See how fast this is going? Okay, so I now am ready for another increase row. That's row 5. So just as we did before, I'm going to find the ladder between stitches and knit into it. And I'm going to knit the next stitch. Okay, now if I've done it correctly, I should have 8 stitches, and I do. All is going according to plan. Okay, now I'm going to look for that ladder. There we go. There are 2 styles of knitting. The American or throwing style, where you throw the yarn over the needle with your right hand. And then the European, what's called the picking style, which is what I'm using. Just gotta find this ladder. There we go. Almost. I learned from my grandmother how to do the other style. And then as an adult, when I started, as an engineer this time, when I started knitting and I watched some DVDs showing the 2 different styles, I decided to take the time to learn how to do this picking style, because it's more efficient in terms of your motions. Because all you have to do is sneak through and pull the thread through. You don't have to put it down and pick it up with your other hand. My manual dexterity is not wonderful, but I still manage. I'm really great at typing, and I'm competent enough at knitting to do what I want to do. I'll never win speed awards, but I have fun. Okay, so I'm on my last needle. Last letter I need to find. Woohoo! And that's the last stitch. All right, so that was row 5. I am done with my increases. So now if I count up, you'll see, let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8 stitches here. Let's see, we got 3 on that needle, or excuse me, 6 on this needle and 6 on this. So again, because I've organized my stitches to have the greatest number on the first 2 needles, I always know when I'm at the beginning of a row. So now I'm just going to knit one more row before I switch videos. And I'll show you, I'll take a minute once I get this first. So this is the picking style of knitting. Which means you gotta learn how to tension the yarn with your left hand. Okay. Now I'm going to do, now I will do a American style row. It's been a while since I've knit this way, but American style is you put the needle through, and then with your right hand you make the loop, and then you slide it off. So it's just a different style. When your knitting gets larger and bulkier, I find that it's a little bit harder to keep doing that way, but you get the same results. So you do whichever style of knitting you are comfortable with. Just keep track of that tail. And sometimes when you're doing two-color knitting, you actually want to be able to knit both ways, because you can handle one color with your right hand and the other color with your left hand. So there's some cool techniques. So it's worth learning both. Okay, just 6 more stitches. Well, I'll show you. Two, three, four, five. One more. Yay. Okay, so knit whichever way you like. This is where I pause and I look at my instructions, and this table off the right, off to the left here, this is for different balls. So this is my 3rd ball on this table. I'm going to put a check on that first row next to row 6. So I've done row 6. Now I'm going to pause the video and start the next one.